All right. So lots of faces I know and a couple of faces I don't know. So welcome to anybody that I've not met before. Okay, cool. Right, well, we will start. So what I'll do is I'll keep you guys on mute. And then when it comes to like your questions and answers, then if you just unmute yourself, ask Fiona your question, and then just mute yourself again at the end, if that's okay, just so we don't get lots of distractions. Okay. All right, I'm just going to give it one more minute because people are still popping up, and we'll get going. So Louisa and Adam, I don't know if you want to share your face, or if you want to stay. So we can't. Yeah, you're on. It's nice to see your face.
Sorry, I've no idea what I'm doing, Rach. So
I haven't joined the club. I didn't know I did.
Good to see you, Rach.
And you. All right, guys. Can we all hear okay? Just pop your thumbs up. Oh, excellent. Okay, good stuff. All right. So what we'll do is, well, the way I'm going to run this, basically, thank you for coming along, first of all, to everybody that's turned up to listen. We've got lots of faces on here, Fiona. I know you can't see anybody, but there's plenty of people listening to you tonight. So the way I'm going to do it is I'm just going to briefly introduce Fiona. And then I've got 3 questions that I want to ask her. And then I'm going to hand it out to you guys. And you can ask her, she said, you can ask her anything you want to ask. So feel free.
If I can't answer, Percy will.
Percy will have a good shot. So just out of interest, who has watched Fiona's running documentary, Running for Good? Just pop your thumb up or your hand up. Hey, I think that's everybody. Okay, I think there's just a couple of people. That's great. So if you haven't watched it, it's on Netflix available. So it is super inspiring. So if you haven't watched Running for Good, it's called, have a watch of that because it is excellent to watch. So I think most of you then, if you watch the documentary, you're already familiar with Fiona. For those of you that don't know, Fiona owns and runs the Animal Sanctuary Tower Hill stables, and at the moment they have, correct me if I'm wrong, Fiona, but over 600 animals at that sanctuary. So not only is it's a full-time job, isn't it, Fiona? There are no days off, there are no baths following a run, are there? There's no putting your feet up. It is full on, isn't it?
Absolutely. Out of your wellies, into your trainers, and back out and into your wellies, and sometimes doing the jobs in your trainers if you can. It's really, it's manic. It's manic.
So I'm not going to particularly ask any questions. I'm going to leave that one for you. So if you want to ask Fiona any questions about how she manages the work at the sanctuary and her training and running, how she fits it all in and how she has the energy to do it all, then I'm going to leave that for you guys to ask those questions, okay? And the other thing that I wanted to mention about Fiona is Fiona's been vegan since the age of 6. She's now 53. Am I allowed to say that?
Yeah.
So if anybody wants to ask any questions about nutrition, veganism, then Fiona is definitely the person to ask those questions to. Mm. And then the last thing before I launch into my questions, which I find really interesting, is that Fiona obviously is an exceptional runner, and she does all of this despite having no right kneecap at all. I don't know how she does it with no right kneecap. But she does. So if you guys want to ask how she manages that, how she manages the training around that, any pain involved with that, then I'm going to leave that question for you guys to ask. So there's plenty to get stuck into and ask. So I'm going to start with my first 3 questions, if that's okay, Fiona. So my first question is, if you can just share with people what have kind of been the challenges and the races that you're most proud of achieving, and what have been the toughest challenges that you've had in terms of races?
Yeah, they're all kind of tough and challenging in a different way. For me personally, probably running a fast marathon, like if you're running 2:38 in a marathon, that's a challenge, because I always, when I've been road running, I've kind of really found it very, very difficult to put the training together. I train in a kind of unusual way. I don't race a lot at all when I'm training for a road marathon. I don't race a lot at all, actually, and that's not by particular choice. It's by more necessity. My running is very, very amateur based. I run for a reason, and it's not just to get a quick time or win a trophy. I like to promote veganism. So I've kind of done it in a bit of a topsy-turvy way. Coming top 20 in London and Berlin were big moments for me. Podium in Amsterdam, that was another big moment, because you're out there in the vegan runner vest next to the Ethiopians and the Kenyans. I mean, you know, when those are the only guys that have beaten you, that's kind of some sort of rubber stamp that you've done kind of okay. So I'm very proud of that. I'm very proud of the moments I stood on a podium with Haile Gebrselassie. That's amazing for me. That's not going to get any better. I was very, very, when I went to the North Pole marathon, I didn't know that I could run in those conditions. Nobody really knew that it could run at -40. And I was very, very unsure because of this instability I've got in my knee. Could I run at a decent pace on ice and snow? I won it. I broke the course record. I podiumed with the men. That was a big moment, purely because not for the running so much, not for me, but for the reason I was out there, because it just proved positive that you can do it as a vegan athlete. That's what I'm out there for. And the ultra stage races, because that shows versatility. I mean, Marathon de Sable 3 times. I was supposed to be back there this year, and I was actually tipped to do very well in it this year, because I was running well on the road, and I was running for England just before the Marathon de Sable in half marathon before coronavirus hit. So they've all been kind of big moments for me, but I don't know. I'm not that. I'm proud of the fact that my running brought about Vegan Runners, the running club, in 2004. I'm not a big one for blowing my own trumpet when it comes to anything that I do. So yeah, they've all been very special moments, and I think probably one of the most, well, proudest, I won't say proud moments, but something that as I look back, I've been blessed to be able to be out there running at all. And people do write to me and say, you know, oh, I can't get beyond 3K or 5K. And it's just relative that, you know, you're out there, you're doing it, you know, you're trying, you feeling the motivation of the sky and the you know, sand or trails or tracks beneath your feet. That's more what it's been about for me. It's not about, you know, who's a better runner than the next person. I'm just very pleased that I've been able to achieve and keep doing what I can do. So yeah, you know, breaking the world records, you know, going to, you know, sort of 7 continents and the North Pole and winning the races and such like have been big moments. But it's more the reason that I'm out there that I'm kind of, rather than the individual achievement, I'm not really that into myself that I'm particularly, you know, I don't, you know, really, I'm just like, I look over 20 years and I think, yeah, I've done some pretty big things, and I'm very, very lucky to have been able to do that, especially being told that I would never be able to walk properly, let alone run again. But I was very embarrassed when Keegan was filming for Running for Good. It was like, oh my God, you know, it was awful. And when I went to the film premiere in Hollywood, dear, if you just like that. And I remember the narrator, because Keegan actually was going to narrate that film himself, Keegan Coon, the director, because we spent a lot of time together and we've become quite close. And then he dropped a bombshell that he wanted somebody else to narrate it. And I said, no, that's a ridiculous idea. He said, oh, he's better known than me, Rich Roll. I've never heard of him. I said, oh, I can say that. So when I went out to Hollywood, and Rich came over to me and said, you know, oh, you know, the film's great. You must be really proud of it, you know. I was like, I don't know, I haven't seen it yet. And he said, you've come out here to watch the film premiere, you've not seen it. And I was going, no, I haven't seen it. I mean, Keegan keeps sending me bits of it. And I, you know, who the hell, you know, it's all like this, you know, who wants to watch themselves on a computer, let alone on a big screen? And my tactic for that occasion was to hide at the back of the auditorium and do the old, oh, I've dropped something. Oh, I found it again, and appear when the film was all over. But he was like, no, you must come and sit next to me, dragging me down to the front of the auditorium by my hair, practically, kicking and screaming. and to watch it, and I was kind of, ooh, you know, squinting, you know, got Percy's in my eye, you know, and I thought, I've got to look that. Calm down, Fiona, you've got to look half decent. You're in the desert, you've got the backdrop, you've got all the kit on, you've got to look, it can't be that bad, can it? And then I remember squinting away and seeing this little kind of tiny little Quasimodo figure limping out the desert, and I thought, it can be. I look awful. I even look awful.
No, you don't.
I look terrible. And I didn't realise how much I limp when I run. And it was when the film got shared around a bit, and I was in Bournemouth doing that qualifier for the London Marathon. And I'm there in my vegan runner vest, you know, pretending to warm up, you know, because I never really do much warming up or anything. And this guy comes over.
Don't tell them that.
I shouldn't say that. No, I didn't say that.
I'm kidding.
I've got a reason I don't warm up. Yeah, all right, I do warm up. And this guy comes over to me and I thought, nobody ever looks at me or comes over to me and he's going, oh, you know, are you Fiona Oakes? I thought, yes, I am. He said, oh, I've seen your film. It's really, I thought it was you. And so, oh, yeah, you know, check this out. He said, I recognised you when you were warming up, so I prove I do warm up, because he said, I noticed that you limped. And I thought, oh, no. I'm recognised by my limp. I'm limping along. So, yeah, I forgot what I was going to say, but I'm not a particularly proud person of my running.
We know you're a humble person.
Well, I don't know anything about running. That's horrible.
Get out of here, right?
And when you get to these tents, you know, like you're having these deep, meaningful conversations in the Sahara or the Namib Desert or wherever you are, and everybody's going on about, you know, amino acids and keto diets and UTM points and goodness knows what. And I'm kind of sitting there thinking, please don't ask me anything, because I haven't got a clue what you're talking about. The only thing I know about running is getting from A to B as quickly as you can, because then it's all over for a day. Then you haven't got to think about it anymore. So that's
she's a very humble person, Fiona. She knows plenty about running, so I'm not going to let you say that. Yeah, right. I'm going to get my second question out, because I'm going to let these guys have them. My second question was something we talked about on Monday, which is really interesting, and it's something that I really believe in. So I really want you to talk about it, and it's that concept you just mentioned about being heavily trained and lightly raced. So if you can just explain to people what that means to be heavily trained and lightly raced, and why you think that's so important in terms of achieving PPs.
Well, especially with the distance that I've been running, like marathons, long distances, I'll just say very quickly, the reason I came to marathon running was to promote veganism, and the reason I chose running, even though I was told I would never run, is back in the day before social media and whatever, you know, all this kind of chit chat thing. I wanted to promote it in a positive way. I'd been vegan by that time. I'd been vegan for like 30 years. And I knew I was fit and healthy and strong on a plant-based diet, and I wanted to show other people that you could be too. So I put my little thinking cap on, and bearing in mind I'm heavily entrenched at the sanctuary looking after the animals, retained firefighter, so always busy bombing up the road, you know, going off and doing calls and getting up ladders and ground monitors and whatever. So I figured to myself, I've always been very physical, very sporty. That's probably where my natural, if you want, talents lie. And the only sport for women that was getting any attention at the time was the marathon, because of what Paula Radcliffe was doing in the event. So I kind of figured, okay, if I could compete in and hopefully complete a marathon event, then that's got to be definitive proof that you can do anything as a vegan athlete. Okay, so for long distances, I'm very, very busy at the sanctuary. 7 days a week, I'm very physically invested in looking after the animals. And I probably could have gone to a race every weekend and won it outright. You know, I mean, 36, 35 minute 10K PB. You know, I mean, I was, you know, that decent runner. But for me, it was very time kind of exaggerated to do that. I mean, you've got to be a day to go to a race. It was expensive, and I've not got any money because we got the animal sanctuary. But also, I wanted to do my best for the animals. So if I was running a 10K, I kind of wanted to run the best time I possibly could. And for that, I'd have to taper for it. and I'd have to rest after it. And I kind of thought, but I'm wasting a lot of training time doing that. It's probably going to take about a week to do that. So what I figured would be the best thing to do would be to just gradually build the training on a kind of like a 4-month training program, and not miss any. Train 6 days a week, take 1 rest day. And for me, it worked, because unless you're just doing a race for training purposes only, and I do think, myself personally, I always get a bit carried away in a race. He's not going past me, right? I'm having him, you know. I can just catch that person. I probably it was the best way of managing my training, making it work, but actually getting the most out of it. And I was actually speaking to somebody recently who goes to the Rift Valley and trained with the top Kenya runners, amongst them Eliud Kipchoge, and he said he has only really ever heard it from one other person, and it was him. He doesn't like to race a lot. He just likes to invest himself in heavy, very serious, full-on training packages and then go out and race. Because in the marathon, I think you need to put all the effort into the training. I don't really. It used to be an old philosophy that, you know, your 10K would build speed, and it might do for some people, but for me, I wanted the emphasis to be on those 2 mornings a year, in the spring and the autumn, when I wanted to deliver my 100% best performance. And it had to be in big road marathons like Amsterdam, Berlin, London, that I wanted to do that. Purely because I kind of worked out that for the press, or for getting potential advertising for veganism, and for the sanctuary, saying that I won the Great Notley 10K didn't have the same impact as saying I podium placed in Amsterdam. So that's why I was doing that. And it's kind of worked, because I will say one, and I'm not a great thinker. I just bomb in, do it, bomb home, look after animals, and that cow needs a vet, or, you know, I'm a bit like that. I don't think too much about my running. But as I look back over 2 decades, here's a stunning point: I've never had a running injury, ever. I've had injuries which have made my running difficult, like in 2012 when I went to Marathon Selby for the first time, like a complete nutter. I fractured 2 toes the week before the race, and I thought, oh, how hard can Marathon de Sable be? I know it's safe on the planet, but I've run 2:38 in a marathon. I can do that. So I thought, you know, a couple of broken toes is not going to bother me that much, is it? Meanwhile, back in the race, when I'm like having all sorts of problems, and like my feet are like swollen, like great big clown feet, I can't get them in my shoes, and I can see the bone sticking out my little toe. But I got through it. So yeah, it's just worked for me to be very sparing, because I think, you know, I get worked. I'm not a very confident runner. I mean, I am that person that is walking to the start of like the elite race, the London Marathon, and I'm looking at that guy in the Superman suit thinking, oh, he looks good, or she look, you know, I'm not very confident. It's only when I get running that I get my confidence back. I think, yeah, I can actually do this. So I invest a lot of energy in anything that I'm doing, kind of nervous energy, and I didn't want to waste that. I just wanted to be consistent in my training. I think that is the key, seriously, to delivering a good marathon on the day. I think it's every training session counts. It is important. The belief, the mental belief that, you know, if you're training for the London Marathon, it's on the 23rd of April, and you don't fancy going out on the 31st of January, it's that belief, knowing that that session will make a difference. And I don't skip sessions ever. I never, ever skip anything. I mean, I will be the person that is going to the end of the drive nearly crying, thinking, I really don't want to run 28 miles this afternoon. It's pelting it down with rain, and it's going to look like snow, and I'm freezing cold. But once I get out there, I know what I'm going to do. And I always say the day I pack up will be the day that I turn around and don't want to go out and finish what I've set out to do. So yeah, it's, I think, looking back on, it's not some sort of conscious decision. It has spared me, the way I run spared me from a lot of injuries as well.
Because sorry, am I right in believing that you're very much self-taught? You don't have a coach. You don't have a coach that writes you a training plan or anything like that. It's very much based on experience and kind of what you've learned as you've gone along, and obviously what
I've picked up along the way. And you know, I've had some the massive moments that I've had with running. Seriously, are probably not what other people would think of being massive moments. I mean, I have literally. For a road marathon at pace, I'd be looking at 100 miles a week, spread over 9 sessions. I'd be training twice a day, 3 days a week. I'd be running a medium to longish run, probably about 16 to 18 miles on a Wednesday. I'd do a hill session, which would probably be about 14, 15 miles on a Friday. And I'd do a distance run on a Sunday, which would be anything from like 22 to 28 miles.
And how long would you be running that kind of mileage if you were training for a marathon? So did you say it'd take about 4 months to train for a marathon? Is that what you said? And then is that what you kind of build up to at your peak?
Yeah. I mean, to be honest with you, once I start doing a marathon training program, that's pretty much every week. I don't build up. Okay. I do. I mean, I'm always relatively fit. I mean, I do sometimes take things a bit for granted, and I don't mean to do that. I mean, I said on the internet that I'm just doing maintenance mileage at the minute because we're so on and off with races and whatever. I'm running about 2 hours a day on average. That would be maintenance for me, and it'd be split. Sometimes I still do 2 sessions. I'm trying to do some speed work because I know when I've done multi-stages and I've done well in them. I've always hammered it out on the marathon stages or on the last stages. I'm always quick. I'm always pretty much the quickest runner in the race when it comes to the more flatter, the stages that are geared towards straightforward running. I'm always up there and out there at the front. I've got no talent. I have to rely on whether it be mentally telling myself I can still do it or physically. I've got no ability because I've got a disability. So for me, I have to work on the tiny little things that other people probably overlook. And I've always said, you know, not to be too crude about the matter. A lot of people focus on what they eat, which is, you know, I'm not that fussed. I haven't got any special tricks with diet at all. It's what's cheap and seasonal and sometimes free, and it's sometimes donated to the pigs, and I'll just eat that. It's basic food, but I tend to focus on the more to the point, especially when on race day, not what's gone in, when it's going to come out, because I've known the fittest runners in the world. My friend Ryan, he was going for a sub 2:30 in London one year, and he got stomach cramps down Birdcage Walk, and he was on for his sub 2:30. He thought he was going to run a 2:28, and he ran 2:38. Because the last 800 meters he was doubled over in pain, you know, stomach crampy pain, if you get me drift. So I manage those little things very, very carefully. I'm very I know I come across as very cavalier, and I am a bit cavalier with my training, but when it comes to race day, I know that everything is the way every shoe tying, everything that I'm going to wear. I'm very, very focused on the little things that are going to, because I always say you can't gain time in a marathon, but you can lose an awful lot. You can lose an awful lot. You get something wrong, something's uncomfortable, something's chafing, your shoelace comes undone. It's a bit different now because you put the chips on the bibs, but if your chip was digging in your shoe, if you'd laced it in wrong, all those little tiny things that can make a heck of a difference. Because honestly, there isn't any great science to running a marathon. If there was, I wouldn't be able to do it. It's literally like the training is what is important. I mean, you get all these people and they come into you like, buy this and you'll run a bit quicker. Run your best marathon in 3 easy training sessions and don't do any mileage and never break sweat. It might be for some people. It's not going to happen for me. I'm going to have to work very, very hard, and I understand that. So for me, the marathon is like putting money in a bank. Every week you're saving up what you can and you're depositing it in the bank. And on race day, if you make your withdrawal, and if the weather's with you, if your health's with you, if if you've got those, you know, external things that you can't control, you're blessed enough to have right conditions, you'll probably you pretty much will run what you calculated you were going to run. It's like not that's how it's worked for me.
And how long, because obviously that's a lot higher mileage than what most people would run in a week. How long is it? Because obviously you've been injury free, which is fantastic. How have you built up, how long has it taken you to build up to be able to run 100 miles a week? Can you remember from when you first started how you built that up?
Yeah, well, I've never had a coach, right? And but before social media, you couldn't just Google search sub 3 hour marathon program. I didn't really know that much, but I was the original person that thought, how hard can a marathon be? It's only 2 half marathons back to back. You know, I actually, you know, that's what I thought. So it was like trial and error. And I think how I started, and I realized that I could probably get round long distances because I'm strong and I'm relatively fit, and after I could get my head around the pain I was having in my knee, and that's continual motion pain, as soon as I stop, it pretty much stops. It's just that continuous impact of one stride length over 2 hours 45 minutes. After I could get my head around that, I kind of thought, well, hang on a minute, I'm not going any quicker. Or I'm getting a little bit quicker by running regularly. You get fitter, and as you gain fitness, you gain experience, and you do build some speed. But I realised that you've got to probably do dedicated speed work to build up the speed in the race. And that's where my treadmill comes in. My friend used to work at Cannon's Gym, and he got me a big Technogym heavy duty treadmill. A lot of people are very sniffy about treadmill running. Ooh, you don't, it's disgusting, you know, couldn't wear it. Well, I have always done all my speed work on a treadmill. And the one thing, I can't run on the track. I tried. My friend Keith wanted me to go to a running club session years and years and years ago when I was looking for my first sub 3 marathon. And he said, you need to do some speed work. Yeah. And I don't look like a marathon runner. I mean, I remember going down Thrift Green Trotters, and Keith was in the A group of the runners, you know, the blokes. And some bloke said, which group will you be running in? And I said, Keith told me to go in the A group. He kind of looked at me. Yeah, all right. You know, because I don't look like a runner at all. And anyway, we went to the track, and it was like 400 metre, 800 metre sessions. I can't do it. I can't run bends on the track because my knee's too bad. I cannot do that continual kind of one-sided stuff. So that's when Kevin got me. He said, you need a treadmill, try on a treadmill. And I do 3 speed sessions a week. And I was doing 10 800s, 2400s, or 6 1 mile hard pushes. And it's all done on a treadmill. And the one thing the treadmill doesn't do, it doesn't lie to you. You can't go out and kind of bluff yourself and think, oh, I'm sure I must have been at that. Well, it was a bit windy. So you put it on like 20, 22 kilometres an hour. That's what you're going to run at. So I wouldn't say it's absolutely accurate with, you know, I think I was running my 800 metres at about 10 800 metres, about 2:28 pace. And it come out about 2:38 pace in a marathon, but it's relatively good. It took me, I suppose, about 2 years to actually start to be thinking, you know, obviously if I want to do a speed session, that's not going to be enough for the marathon that I want to run. I've got to put in a recovery run in the evening. So it was about a couple of years when I actually realised I'm running about 100 mile a week every week.
And did you figure out that was about right for you then? That
yeah.
Kind of 100 mile,
I'm
you kind of figured out.
No talent, high mileage runner. That's what I am. I am a no talent, high mileage runner. That's it. I had a right story when I went to Amsterdam. Well, I got invited to go to the Amsterdam. Oh, that was another thing about, for me, it worked well to just do 2 big marathons a year because we're like Mrs. Poor. And I was getting invited to races. So you get, you know, Mark Mills, my Berlin Marathon, you know, come and run the Berlin Marathon, you get your airfare, you get a hotel paid and the race entry. Great for me, and you know, in conjunction with the sanctuary. And I went to Amsterdam Marathon, and I was that proud. Ali Gabriselassie was on the start line with me, and he was running for the world record. I was in the next bedroom along from him in the hotel, and I just being there was like, oh, you know, this is what I've worked for. And it was the email said from Jos Herman, that was the race organizer and Gabriselasie's coach. Got your race entry. You don't have to go to the Olympic Stadium. Your race entries, everything's in the hotel for the elite runners, and that's where the technical meeting. Meet in a technical meeting for a marathon. You got everybody there sitting there going, I think I'm going to make my push at 30k, and I'm just thinking you have to probably push me at 30k. I just want to. The technicality of it is getting to the finish line and not being dead. That was as much as I wanted. But I remember going for my race number, and I'm proud as punch walking into this, like there's nobody there, and there's like some couple of blokes sitting behind a desk with a few bags for the elite runners, and they're all like number 3 and number 6, and I was like really proud. And he said, yes, can I help you? And I said, yeah, I've come from a race number. And he kind of looked at me like, what, you? And yeah, he said, well, the sign-on's at the Olympic Stadium. And then I went all embarrassed. I thought, oh God, I've got it all wrong. I'm not on the elite start. And I remember fumbling in my bag for this kind of, here, I've got this email and it says I've got to come here. And he kind of just looked at me and said, I don't know what he said, but it weren't like, he said, you know, what are your best times? And I told him, and he said, oh, you know, if you ran out your skin, you might get in the top 15 and up 12, and I actually podiumed. So that was a big moment for me. But yeah, I don't really look like your average marathon runner. It's really embarrassing, actually. Sometimes you're on the front of these big race starts. You've got like 50,000 runners behind you, and you've got all the elites bobbing around you, and you're like idiot. You're trying to get your vegan runner vest on the camera. And I remember one year they were telling us to warm up before the London Marathon, you know, because the elite girls were going off, you know, at 45 minutes ahead of the main race and the men. And I'm thinking, oh, blooming heck, I don't really do any stretching. And these little Kenyan girls, they're like rubber bands, you know, and I'm trying to touch my toes, you know, like trying to make a mess of that, you know. I'll pull something now just before the race starts. And as they're coming along the front line, you know, kind of with a camera, you know, going on, and I'm thinking, oh my Lord in heaven, I hope they've got a flipping wide angle lens on here, because they're not going to get me all in at the side of some of these girls. They're like, I look like the love child, Mrs. Blobby and the Michelin Man standing here, and these tiny little like elfin type girls next to me, and I'm kind of like muscle woman. But yeah, so back to the question. It took me about,
I don't even know what my question was. What was my question, Fiona? I don't know.
It took me about 2 years. 2 years.
That was the one. And so that's so cool. Let's open it up to everybody else. Now, I promised Mossy, who you have met before, the first question that I think is actually for Percy. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, do you want to ask Percy your question?
Well, Percy, what's your running schedule, or do you follow the same one, or do you do something different?
Did you get that, Fiona?
Yes, Percy's running schedule. Percy is more into the nutritional side of things. So, for instance, he kicks me off out to do the running, and Percy stays at home and samples the sweets that we might need on the races. You know what I mean? So he'll be kind of sampling the cola bottles and the fizzy sweets, and I'll be out doing the running. But he does come with me in my backpack. Actually, we're going to be honest now, aren't we, Percy? Because we did promise that we would be honest in this interview. It's not always Percy that comes out. He's got a body double. I said it. Yeah, and people have said when I post pictures on the internet of Percy in my backpack, oh, he's looking well. And it's not actually Percy. It's Percy's brother Frank, because Percy is a very small, and he's been how many desert races he's done? He's done a lot of desert races, and I won't say he's fragile, if you get me drift. But we have to look after him. So he stays at home and works on nutrition and just gets to go to the races. And his little friend has to come out and be the body double when I'm training.
Wow. But, did you know that, Mossy? Did you know that?
Did you know you had a body double? No, I didn't.
Oh,
Wow,
in fact,
there you go.
when Keegan came, he actually questioned me. He said, "That is the real Percy, isn't it? It's not some sort of body double or some stunt double he's using." And that Percy is the real Percy in the film. He did not use
in the film.
double. Yeah.
Very cool. Well, thank you very much, Mossy. That was an
Thanks,
excellent
Mossy.
question.
See you soon.
If you just mute yourself. Oh. So just pop your hand up if you have a question for Fiona. Right, Lucy, do you wanna ask Fiona? Just unmute yourself. Cool.
Yeah, will do. Hi.
Hiya.
Hi, I've got a food-related question for you, Fiona. Obviously, you're a very strong vegan, but I noticed in your film one thing that really struck me was that you said you only ate one meal a day. Is that true? How do you do that?
To be honest with you, it's kind of always fitted in with my daily routine. I come from, before we got the sanctuary back in the 90s, I worked in London. I worked very long hours in London, and I was bike racing. And the only way I could know that I could train was in merchant banking, that I could train. I used to get up in the morning, well, I do still get up in the morning, but that's when I started to get up at 3:30 in the morning and train and then go into work, because it was the kind of job that the minute I got into work, that was it. Bang, 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 all day. And I just got into the habit of eating one meal a day, just kind of in the evening. That I never snack. I don't have anything. And I have to be truthful. And I did say, I've always been reluctant to say this, lest people think, oh, you're giving out nutty advice. I'm not advising anyone to do this, but it's what I've always done. It fits in with my day. As a retained firefighter, I was getting called out. I didn't want to have done BA. I just had a meal. It just was, I honestly do work from the minute I get up to the minute I sit down for that meal in the evening. I'm on the go all the time. And I just don't stop for breaks. I do stop for drinks. And I do drink, not alcohol, but I drink a lot of tea and coffee and a lot of water. That's all I have in the day. And yeah, it's 100% true. I eat one meal a day, and people who've been here and know what I do know that that's absolutely the truth, and it just suits me. And again, I'm not name dropping or anything, I'm not being flash, but when I was doing my world records, I was in Omsk, and the race that I was running was a big IAAF accredited race, and they laid on a big lunch for the elite runners on the Saturday before the race. And one of the Kenyan coaches said to me, are you coming for lunch? And I said, no, I don't eat lunch. And he said, why is that? I said, I only eat one meal a day. And he said, oh yeah, the warrior diet. And I sort of went, yeah, yeah, check that one out. Yeah, the warrior diet. Here I am, the warrior diet. And he said, yes, intermittent fasting is very popular amongst the Kenyans. And I was going, interesting. And I'm thinking, call it what you like. But apparently now a lot of the endurance athletes and the Kenyans do call it intermittent fasting. And it's this idea that you eat one meal a day, and it breaks the constant trickle feeding that you have during a day uses up and doesn't utilize your energy properly or something like that. I don't do it for that reason. I just do it because it actually is more convenient for me. I found that it works for me. I won't be rude or anything, but with bowel action, if you like, with my training, it just works very well for me. And it's been nearly 30 years I've been doing it. And I actually feel really, really healthy. I don't crave food. I'm not a big food person. I don't, it's about 10th on my list of priorities in a day, probably because I've got 600 other mouths to feed. I'm not thinking that much about my own. I get absorbed in what I'm doing. And even, funnily enough, you have to take 2,000 calories a day to Marathon des Sables or a multi-stage race. I've told myself that on those races, I should be eating breakfast. I've got to, because you're going to be out there and it's just horrendous. And I've tried to eat like a flapjack bar in the morning, and I just can't do it. I remember sitting around some campfire in like the Atacama Desert, and I'd been working with this flapjack bar for about an hour, sort of pushing it around, nibbling tiny bits, and I just can't cope with it. I just can't. And yeah, it's just good for me. I mean, I'm not weak or anything like that. I don't take any supplements, or it's just what I've learned to adapt for me. My circumstances are pretty unusual in everything I do. I know when I actually started to do quite well in shorter distance races, I didn't just like enter a marathon. I did shorter distance races first, not a lot. Coaches kind of got a bit interested in who's this woman that's coming out and, you know, doing relatively well. But nobody touched me for coaching because of the veganism and the way I lived, and that's the reason that I'm out there running, so that's not negotiable. But it is a very kind of strange, probably not strange, but unique to me way that I carry on, but it really works. And that's the one thing that I would all kind of like to say to people, with your running, rather than kind of always find out what works for you, with a person with expertise to manage that, if you get my drift. Another thing that I don't use Stravas, Garmin's, heart rate monitors, any of it. I don't have any. I've got an old Timex here that's the battery's gone on, so it won't, still on like winter time, so I have to factor in the fact that don't get carried away, it's later than you think, it's summertime now. I'm very, very good at pace judging. I mean, I can go out, if I want to qualify for the elite start at the London Marathon in a half or something, I'll know exactly where I've got to be. And I, like when I did in the race in the autumn, I just thought, I got up what day before the race and thought, right, I'll go and qualify for that, and I know exactly where I've got to be and what I've got to be running and what pace I'm running. I don't need to look at a watch. And you know, the one thing that these things are great to guide you, but for me, they don't factor in you personally. They don't factor in the fact that you're tired, or you've got a lot of stress, or you might be coming down with a cold, or they don't factor in your unique circumstances. So I focus more on, okay, I've got this brilliant computer I carry about my person every day. It's in here somewhere. Mine's only quite small, but it is in here. And I learned to listen to that. And same with the diet. You know, I remember being in America. It was in LA, but it's like, ooh. And I was speaking to one of these big Instagram stars, and he's come to my bedroom, he's setting up all this gear. We've got more tripods than we've got cameras. We've got all this business going on. And he's a, you know, flash, good looking, you know, big bloke. And I said to him, Nimai, all that stuff, you must spend like all your day setting up computers and cooking from what's on your Instagram. And he said, oh, I don't eat that myself. What? You know, it's just like, this is what I'm eating, but it's not necessarily, what they're putting on there is not necessarily, truthfully, what they're actually doing. I'm a bit more the other way. I will tell you 100% what I'm doing. It don't look pretty. You know, I mean, I've had this conversation with somebody about photographs. Mine are all pretty basic, all wobbly and like, ooh, you know. And she said, oh, no, you don't do it like that. You have somebody in to take professional photographs of you in different poses. And then when you've done a training session, you add one to the training session. I said, but that wouldn't be very truthful, would it? You know, look, oh, I'm all glammed up here and I've just run 10 800 meters. This is the reality of what I look like when I run like that. So for me, it's all about honesty, and I just don't stress about my running. I don't stress about what I'm eating. I always think I'm lucky enough to have any food at all. I don't fixate on those things. I know when I go to Marathon Stabler, I take like Marbacre flat jack bars. They're 50p each, but they do the job. They're quite light and they've got 440 calories in them. That'll do me, because it's going to be horrible out there anyway. So what I'm eating, as long as I'm getting something, isn't going to make that much difference. And yeah, that's pretty much how I carry on.
Thank you, Lucy. Thank you very much. Leanne, do you want to answer a question?
Hi. My question is, I've done one marathon before, and I did the tapering, and I felt terrible.
Tapering?
To the point, yeah, tapered before. and so I had sort of two and a bit weeks tapering, and I felt really rubbish to the point that I felt unwell really, and on the morning of the marathon I didn't really feel great, but I think it was just probably nerves. But just with regard to you saying about races and how you have to taper and how it takes away from your training and that kind of thing, do you taper when you do your big marathons?
Yeah.
Twice yearly. You do?
Yeah. I would say that the taper is probably as important as the training. And I didn't really get it. I mean, I feel rubbish as well. I feel absolutely appalling. I feel guilty that I'm not out there hammering the miles. It's 21 days to the race and I'm not running on the Monday and the Tuesday. And then you start thinking, am I getting too big to run the race? I feel enormous. I feel sluggish. I feel slowful. And then you go out and you kind of thinking, oh my gosh, should I just run a bit further to check that I can still do it? I got all that going. I have got a very rigid taper program that really does make you feel, it does make you feel bad, but I think it works. It's a gradual drop down. So I think the first week it tells you to run about 60 miles. And whereas I was running 10 800s, do 6 800s and only a 4 mile run in the evening, but you're gonna feel sluggish and I lose confidence when I'm not doing the mileage. So when we get into the last week, I really am sort of the nerves are building up, and I would say that to anyone. It's kind of a withdrawal of the actual distances that you've been running, because you've probably been 10 12 14 weeks doing relatively high mileage to suddenly come out of that and have the confidence then. But I remember it was one of the really, really good runners explaining it to me, that I don't think you can gain any endurance or lose any endurance in the 3 weeks before the marathon, and you can't lose any speed for 2 weeks beforehand. So I think from what I'm trying to say is, in my very, very basic knowledge of how I have gone about achieving relatively decent times and places in marathons, the training period was all about literally hammering yourself as hard as you can, but being able to get up the next day and the next week and do it again. So finding that maximum. And then the race, I don't think the races were actually a lot more difficult than the actual training program. I was just doing the races on fresh legs. I mean, I will say that I have my marathon on the long days of my Sunday runs. I wasn't running an awful lot slower than I actually was running in the marathons, probably 30-second a mile slower, 40-second, not low. I whipping round them quite quick, probably through necessity. I just wanted to get home. I mean, it was horrible. I mean, who wants to go out and run 24 mile on the road on a Sunday when you know you've got like hundreds of jobs to do when you get home? So I did tend to always push on. And it was Paula Radcliffe, she was commentating on the Commonwealth Games, and she was talking about Callum Hawkins and about his training program. And she said, you can't race hard if you don't train hard. And I think for me, the training isn't just about physical training, it's about mental training as well. And taking yourself to those very dark places that you are going to go to in that race, and learning how to get through them. You're going to get the aches, you're going to get the pains, you're going to get the doubts, you're going to get all that, but learning how to come through it and know that you can come through it. And especially in the like the multi-stage races, I've always said to people, I don't climb. I mean, you know, people going to eat chambers, and when I were at North Pole Marathon, they were there. They'd had blooming treadmills set up in industrial freezers, and I've done nothing. I mean, I've just literally picked the coldest days I can and gone out running. But it's preparing yourself by being as fit as you possibly can. That's all I've ever done. I've never done anything special. I've never had anything special for me running. But yeah, I would say that everybody feels rubbish and more rubbish and more rubbish. And I think also when it's coming to marathon day, and if you're focused on a road marathon, you start to get those extra worries that, oh my Lord, I mean, I'm like hypochondriac, of course, gets in, you know, oh, what's that? Is that a pain? Have I torn something? Is that a niggle? Have I got a cold? You know, oh, that's have I got a cold is right special to me. In fact, the lockdown is nothing to me. I was living in a caravan on the sanctuary before races. We'd like, practically, we're like, a cross on the door, do not come here, do not come near me. And you know, I've been that person that's been in a shop and I've heard somebody sneeze, I've dropped my shopping bag and run like I'm a shoplifter or something, because the last thing you want is cold. You can't run a good marathon with a cold, and so you get that kind of nervous energy and paranoia's going on. So I would say, rather long-windedly, I've gone about that, everybody is going to feel rubbish for many reasons in the taper period, but when you get on that start line, it does work. I always say to people, I don't know much about anything, but tapering does work, and I would recommend it. I wouldn't recommend trying to run a 10k the week before a marathon just to check that you've got your pace and your legs. Try and have faith in the training, the actual training program that you've done, and let the taper do its work with regarding rejuvenating your body. Even though you don't feel like you're recovering, it is doing.
Does that help, Leanne?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, because I've just read a book by someone else who said that they're not a fan of tapering, who's done something similar to what you do, run Marathon des Sables. So I just wondered what your take on it was.
Marathon des Sables, I would say, is different. I'd say that the really ultra races are a bit different. I would honestly, and I'm being truthful, I'm not being conceited, I'm being truthful. I would say that most people could get round Marathon des Sables. Whether they want to or not, you've got to want to. But I would say that it was Steve Diedrich, the first year I did MDS with his fractured toes, and I was in trouble. I mean, I was a bit cavalier about it. There wasn't all the stuff on the internet. And you buy shoes a size too big because your feet are going to swell when you get out to the race, you know. So I bought them a size too big and I couldn't get my feet in the shoes before I went to the race, with the broken toes. And it was Steve Diedrich who actually said to me, this race is probably 30% physical and 70% mental. If you want to get through it and you want to put yourselves through this, I would say that every one of you looking here now could probably do it. The road running, I would say, is different, and that's the truth. Whether I would taper for a Marathon des Sables, probably not. I would probably go out and be doing relatively, you know, like 10 mile with my backpack the weekend before the race. I'd probably do that for MDS, but I wouldn't do it for a quick road marathon. I think the two are very, very different. The quick road marathons, it's more about physical ability, and that is the honest truth. You can't will yourself to a sub-3 marathon. You've got to have done the training. You can will yourself round MDS. What pace you're going to will yourself round, that might be a different thing. Unless you go and acclimatise and you do climb training and you do specific kind of training, and you're very much an ultra runner. I'm not an ultra runner. I'm somebody who wings it round ultra races based on the fact I've done a lot of road mileage. I don't consider myself much of a runner, but I wouldn't say I'm an ultra runner, and I can't descend. I have these ridiculous goings on in ultra races where I've got to, like, I'm bombing it up hills, I'm bombing it on the flat, and then it comes to a downhill, I'm like, ugh, can't do it. I'm on mid-bottom shuffling down, and, you know, everybody's like running past me, you know, then because I just can't, my knee is very unstable. It's descending is not possible. It's not just something I don't like doing, it's something I physically can't do. So I would say the road tapering, honestly, the good runners take, you know, the runners that I've met, like Abu Selassie, the Kipchoge, they do do the taper period, because you bashed your body to pieces on tarmac for those races. If you're really looking to run quick, you've probably done your training on tarmac, and your body needs to recover. I don't find that the ultra stage races actually take as much out of you. They don't take as much out of me as fast marathons, which can come back to bite you 6-8 weeks later. If you come back euphoric and think, oh, you know, I'll get out training this week, and then if you do too much too soon, you can find yourself in a real problem, you know, 2 months down the line. So I would say it's a little bit different, and for the ultras probably not, but for the fast roads, I would always say, everybody's different, but I would say tapering.
Cool. Thank you very much, Leanne. Thank you. Anybody else? Jules?
Hi there, both of you.
Hiya.
Amazing. This has been absolutely wonderful. I've been laughing, and Fiona, you are a legend. Love you. Anyway, adulation over. Serious question. How do you think that the vegan message can ride on the back of, and maybe be one of the good things of, the coronavirus now?
Well, I had hoped that people might kind of, I kind of liken it to the fact, if a spaceship came along, or somebody who'd been in space for a long time and didn't know what was going on, and you were telling them, you know, oh God, look what's going on, you know, everything's shut down, we've got to listen, and you would tell, and how did it start? Oh, we started in a wet market in China, you know. Oh, so you've shut wet markets down, haven't you? No. It kind of seems weird to me that we're not like addressing that. I think that people are looking more towards plant-based options because of it. For me, I kind of just want to kind of always make people aware that it's not just coronavirus, this one specific thing. We've had lots of potential pandemics, swine flu, avian flu, you know, there's Ebola, all caused in the same manner of the way they're caused from animal agriculture or eating animals. So I think that from what the statistics are, people are looking more towards plant-based options, but for me it's all about positivity and trying to spread the vegan message in a way that people understand and not pushing it at them. And so for me personally, I'm just trying to do it through my running, through what I've done, through what I continue to do. Sometimes I think the message is getting a little bit lost out there somewhere along the line, but it's just about positivity. I mean, the vegan runners have been a great, a massive thing for promoting veganism in a positive way. When we started the club, it was pretty much I was the only vegan in the village regarding to the running, but now having the runners out there on start lines and wearing the vest and training, it's just like, you know, a captive audience. People want to know how to improve themselves. You just passively saying, you know, this is my running club, this is my message, you know, take it or leave it. And I just hope that people can make the connection between veganism and health, and not just the health of yourself, but of the animals and other people on this planet and the planet in itself. And I just try to tell people it's a win-win, no-brain message if you want to listen to it. Not everybody does, you can't force people, but I just hope that they can make the connection. But there's not a lot of emphasis been put. There's a lot of emphasis been put on like vaccines and masks and cures and treatments, but not on prevention in terms of what we can do to prevent COVID-20 coming along, perhaps. I mean, I was reading recently that there has been another virus detected in pigs in China, which could be equally as potent. And it just seems so simple. If we take that bit out of the equation, there's no problem for the future. But it's getting that message out there in a kind of positive, peaceful and proactive way that I'm all about, certainly. And yeah, it's not easy. A lot of people don't want to hear my message. I'm not a big I do it. I'm vegan very much for the animals. That's why I do what I do. That's why I live my life the way I do. But you know, for whatever reason, people are making choices. You can't force people, but you can only kind of positively try to lead them in the direction which is best for all. That's all I'm trying to do. But yeah, I don't know. We shall see. You know, people are talking now about diet, and it's their dietary choices. I mean, it's the way that the animals are kept. Pandemics will surely continue. I see a lot of frightening things. This is a running kind of talk. I won't talk about. I see a lot of, because I care for animals. I've obviously got a lot of ex-farmed animals here at the sanctuary, and the answer is not to just take farming or animal agriculture behind closed doors and kind of intensify it, because when you think about it, they're saying that, you know, disease is spread in the humans by cramped conditions, and these animals are being kept in appallingly cramped conditions, in filthy environments, in, you know, the temperatures, you know, breeding grounds for viruses. It's probably time to make change at a governmental level rather than individual level. That's what I'm kind of focusing on at the moment. But you know, statistics can be manipulated. That's kind of been my philosophy. Statistics can be manipulated in what direction you want them to be. You know, you could say it's somebody's opinion. I've never been into that. I've realised life's too short. I don't want to argue with people. All my objective has ever been to do is to go out and create positive proof, and then lay it on the table and say, we can't argue with that. I've done it. There's the proof. You know, and make your decision based on that. So yeah, it's quite a shocking thing at the moment, but it does upset me that a lot of the adverts on television offer like delivery and you know, like getting food delivered in. I had hoped that people would probably be taking the opportunity of lockdown and furlough to be creative at home and prepare meals from scratch. I mean, that's what I do, and it all seems to be focused on Deliveroo, and you know, kids crying, I've got to eat, my mum's cooking tonight. Oh, but KFC's back on the agenda. Oh great, you know, sort of thing. Yeah, the advertising is a big battle, but you know, we're getting there, and things are changing, and change doesn't happen overnight, and just like with the running, you have to build up, and so hopefully positive change and momentum is building in terms of promoting veganism, for people to make informed decisions on their life choices. So just as long as we can keep it moving in the right direction, and that's all I'm trying to do. I'm not trying to force anybody down any route that they don't want to, drag them down this path. Just, you know, encourage them to say, well, I've done it. And because I know when I started running, there was a great thought process that you literally couldn't be fit and healthy and eat lettuce. That's kind of the idea that a lot of people did have towards a vegan. If you probably look like you've been dug up from somewhere, you have to use all the energy you could muster to get from your deathbed to the kitchen to eat your lettuce leaf and then crawl back to your bed. You'd have no physical strength at all, and you would probably keel over if you tried to walk to the end of the garden path. That was kind of it. So I've just been trying to prove otherwise by actions rather than words, because before social media, people didn't hear your words. You've got to kind of use the mainstream to get your message out there, and you could either do it positively or negatively, and I'm not about negativity. I think negativity breeds negativity, and aggression breeds aggression. So try it with positive, and it has worked for me. I mean, obviously when I've won races, and you know, I've been to countries where they've never heard of veganism, and yeah, I remember it's very moving when I was in Omsk, and a lot of people had come from all around, you know, around Russia and the Ukraine and Kazakhstan, because they wanted to be vegan, and their family thought that it was impossible, and they'd suffer from blood disorders and whatever, and just to see somebody out there in a vegan runner vest doing it, you know, gave them the strength and their families the assurance that you could do it. So I think that's all we can do, keep pushing that forward. It's not easy though. I'll be the first to say it's not easy, but you know, nothing is if it's worth having.
Thank you. Thanks, Fiona. Thanks, Jules, for that question. Right, Jay, do you want to? I know you were dying to ask Fiona a question.
I certainly am. Just a real quick one, really. Thanks very much, Fiona. A few years ago, I bumped into a friend of mine who was wearing a vegan runner's hoodie, and that got me into running. So I would never have taken up running, but for seeing that. Just a bit of a serious question, though. How did you meet Percy?
How did I meet Percy?
Yeah, I'm dying to know.
Well, Percy was, well, shall I say it? I go when I do my shopping. When I have been shopping in the past, I go in these very exclusive shops. You understand, very high class, you know, charity shops. He was in a charity shop.
Oh.
And I took a fancy to him. Don't ask, I've took a fancy to like millions of bears. But Percy, he was in this little basket. I shouldn't be saying this, it's too traumatic for him. And he was in this little basket, and I think he was like 10p. And I saw him, and I just took to him, and his little cute little face, big smiley face, and I took to him, and from there we've been bonded, haven't we, Percy? Yes. And Percy is like my little alter ego, because he's like the naughty side of me. Percy can say things that I could never say. So he will sit on this shoulder going, go on, do it, have that extra slice of cake. And I'll be thinking, no, I shouldn't. And Percy will go on, do it. And then Percy did it, you see, I didn't do it. Percy did it. Percy took that piece of cake, it wasn't me. It was Percy.
No, it was one of your earliest rescues then.
He was actually one of my earliest rescues. He's been around a very long time. I won't discuss his age. That's not for here. It's very private and personal. But yes, he never seems to get any older, does he, Percy? And he's always got. And Keegan was going on when he came. He said, "Oh, you know, carrying the bear. Come on, it's Percy, Keegan. Please address him by his proper title. He's carrying the bear. It's a great tactical." Kind of movement, you know, for actually promoting the vegan message. Tactical movement. He's my best friend. I like that. Why, you know, he's alive. I'm not carrying him around for some tactical movement to promote veganism. He is my friend. And it's amazing, actually. People really warm to Percy. Anybody who's been with me in Marathon des Sables will, have grown soldiers. In fact, when I was in Marathon des Sables in 2014, I was doing it with a barrister lady, and I had in the long stage. I was in 2014 when I did MDS. I went out there to crack it hard, and I was in one of the top places in the race. And the stages, they've got big cut-offs because there's a lot of ability levels in the MDS. Some people walk it, and so it might be a 12-hour cut-off stage for a marathon. And the first couple of days, I was like taking about 4 hours a stage, and I was really about fifth place overall. And one of my tent mates, Mike Julien, he had leukemia, and he was shouldn't really have been there. He was on chemotherapy, and he was taking like 11 hours, whereas I was back home, done me a little bit of washing, gone to bed when he was coming back to camp. And he came back on day 2 in absolute tears. He was absolute wreck, and he said, "I'm packing up. I can't do this. It's too brutal out there." And I said to him, "You've got to try and get through." I understood what he was going through, because I'd kind of been in the same position in 212. And he said, "I'm never going to get through the long stage. It's like 90k. I'm not going to be able to do 90k out there in the Sahara Desert on my own if I can't even get through 30 odd k." And I said, "Look, if you still want to do it after tomorrow, and no one else will stay with you, I'll stay with you on the long stage if you really want to get through this, because you can get through it. It's just not being frightened, not being alone." So anyway, the next day I went out and hit it hard again, got my top place in, and I'd done me a little bit of washing and gone to bed, and I'm preparing for the long stage, thinking, right, I'm going to hit this one as hard as I can. And Mike hadn't come back to the tent. And then just on cut-off time, I was in my sleeping bag. I heard some clapping at the finish line. So you always go and clap the last finishers in. And it was Mike. And he threw himself into my arms, and he'd been out there a long time, and said, "Oh my God," he said, "does your offer still stand for tomorrow?" because I want to try the long stage. Well, I couldn't very well say, no, I've changed my mind now. I'm doing really well and I'm going to hit it hard. It was only a joke. So I said, yeah, if you need me with you, I'll stay with you. And another tent mate, Vicky, she was also struggling. She was a barrister. And she said, can I stay with you as well? Because I just don't fancy it either out there. And so we trudged off together into she reckons I was like some sort of dominatrix. So like, get up, like, this is the place we're going. Bang, 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 bang. It's straight through the checkpoints. Bang, 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 bang. We're going to keep this momentum going. And I remember we came out, it was getting dark, and we'd been told to put head torches on, coming out of like the 5th checkpoint. And I remember Vicky coming out, and she just looked at what we'd got to climb, and she said, no way am I going up there. I'm not doing it. I'm packing. So Percy then jumped into action, and he started to blackmail her, or bribe her, should I say, with his sweets. And he said, every kilometre you stay with us, you get a packet of my sweets. I think he's got Parma violets. And I remember thinking, and I had to slap her around the face to get her back in with us, because she was getting hysterical at the thought what we got to do. And I remember thinking, oh, I've just slapped a barrister. This is not going to be good. And but Percy was there with his sweets. He was a bit reluctant because he's not big on sharing his sweets. But he actually mentored her round the long stage with Mike, and we eventually trudged into camp, and it was a trudge. Yeah, so Percy is a bit of a hero when it comes to the old running department, and he's he's a bit famous. And we've got on planes before now, and the air stewardesses are, oh, look at him, isn't he a cute little bear? Would you like to go and sit with the pilot? And I'm thinking, he's a right cheeky little bear, but he's not to be trusted. He's a bit of a ladies' bear, he knows he's cute, let's put it like that. But he's a bit of a legend in his own lifetime, so yeah, everybody loves Percy. And soldiers, the soldiers training to be in the French Foreign Legion, can we have our photo taken with him? So he is a bit of a lad when he gets out there. Yeah.
Thanks for that question, Jay. Thank you. Right, Eric, what time are we on? I reckon because we've got to let Fiona go at some point tonight. So let's go for one more question. Is there anybody else that Louisa's dying? Go on, Louisa. With it.
Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yeah. Go and speak again.
Oh, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Just about.
Yeah. Okay. I'm sorry about this. Okay. So my question, Fiona, is I've watched Running for Good probably 3 times now with different people. So I think it's probably, if not one of the best documentary I haven't seen.
Thank you.
It's wonderful. My question is, what is the message that you are hoping people get from that documentary? I guess it's 2-part. Do you think that message is being received, and how do you feel about that?
Right, well, the documentary, if everybody's got a bit of time, I'll just wind up quick, because I'm getting bored. The documentary actually came about, it's not my documentary. The documentary came about because in 2013, Keegan Kuhn, who made the documentary, he'd made Cowspiracy. He was actually looking for funds for Cowspiracy, and he put out an appeal on the internet. And I saw it. I'd just come back from the World Records, and I thought, oh, I wonder if I could help in any way promote or help him get funds. And obviously I don't have that kind of money to spare to make documentaries, but Keegan actually read the message, and we did a bit of talking, and he actually said that if he ever got any chance to help me, he would like to do that. And in 2015 he wrote 2016 actually, he wrote and said, I've just made What the Health, I've got a little bit of downtime, I would really like to make a documentary. I've made something about the negativity regarding the animal agriculture, negativity regarding what eating animals does to the environment and to the individual. Now I want to make a positive documentary about all the good things about being vegan, and that's why I want to make it about you, because you've been vegan since you were 6. You built all your muscle mass on plants. There's a bit of a negative side to it in that you were told you would never walk again, let alone run. You've got an animal sanctuary, so you actually care for the animals you're so passionate about, so you can talk eloquently about the subjects, such as animal agriculture. I have to deal with all the same things that farmers have to deal with, and you've got this elite running career, and it continues on. So Keegan, actually, I didn't really know what he was going to focus on in the documentary. He decided that it would be a good idea if I went out and did a race to kind of articulate and encapsulate everything that I've done, because I can't go back and do the North Pole and the marathons. I said, look, the best one to do cinematographically would probably be Marathon des Sables, because some of the other races that I've done are great, but they haven't got the resources in the race to actually facilitate you getting the shots. So you're out there running alone. So he engineered the documentary very much around what the message he thought would be most palatable to people. So I didn't really know too much about it, to be honest with you. I was shocked that he didn't mention that I'd done MDS twice before or some of the stuff, but he didn't have the time. His idea with that documentary was he was going to try and make a documentary about somebody, I won't say a unique person, because we're all unique. I mean, somebody who'd done extraordinary things, just an ordinary person doing extraordinary things, and not really mention that I was vegan until the end, because he was worried that if he made a vegan documentary, it would alienate people from watching it at the beginning. So the documentary was very much, I'm not like into films or like strategies or marketing strategies. I've just done what I've done. Now, regarding the reach of the film, I'm not going to lie, we had hoped it would reach a bigger audience. Keegan didn't have the kind of marketing budget behind him that the Game Changers had. He just didn't have that. And people know that I was cut out of the Game Changers, was filmed twice for it and then cut out at the last minute. And indeed, the marketing budget that they had from James Cameron was originally promised to Keegan, and he didn't get it. So it was a bit of a moot point there. What I have found, honestly, with the film, some people get it, some people don't. I've not actually had one negative comment about it written to me. I don't think it's for everyone, because a lot of people are of the attitude, I think you're balmy, or if you don't like running, don't do it. You get that kind of, it's very unique to those of us who understand. And so I would like more people to see it. I'm not gonna lie to you about that, because I think what has upset me, especially from the vegan perspective, is that there are a lot of people out there that I'm finding now are trading on the vegan name that probably aren't vegan at all, or just plant-based occasionally or sometimes, and then they go and turn the other way and say, oh, veganism, it nearly killed me. And you know, I've been the person that has been vegan for like nearly 50 years, and I'm still doing it, and I'm still doing the running, and I'm still knocking out the 120 in a half marathon, and I have nothing special, and there's no marketing there, and I've never tried to sell anything at all apart from that word, that message out there for people to go away and work with it if they want to, and understand that it is possible, and others have done it. So that's the message, I hope, that comes from the film. And also, I've done it for a reason. I have done my running for the animals. That's why I have done it. They are all that is important to me, really, and not just the animals that are at the sanctuary, obviously, but the animals that are out there suffering needlessly. That's why I run. That's why the film was made. The message that I would like to come from it, honestly, if I were to say, I'm nothing special. If I can do it, you can do it. Anyone can do it. Believe. And for me, people get very carried away with this social media goings on. That's cheap, boring. You don't worship false idols. You can do it too. Okay, it's great to look up to people. I mean, I'm like all tiddly knickers when I went to marathons and there's Ali Gabriel Selassie there, because he is somebody that, you know, I would aspire, I know, to be anything like. But you can. If I can, believe you me, anybody can. oh, Miss Limpalong, Quasimodo, I can do it. Anyone can do it, truly. And that's what self-belief. So it's great to have role models and people that you can write to and ask, but believe that you can do it too. You can change the world, or you can make this world a better place. And just saying, you know, I get so many people, oh, Fiona, you've got so many animals, you can't help them all. No, I can't help them all, but I'm not just going to turn away from the ones that I can help with that kind of get out clause. Oh, I can't do that, because you probably can. You've just got to believe. And that's what the message, not just applying to the running, but to applying to any life choices. Set your own boundaries, don't let limitations, don't let others do it for you. And also, nothing is written, you know, write your own chapters, and you can do it. I mean, I you know, I'm from a very, very humble working class background. I have not had any help anywhere along the line, and but I've never had any I wouldn't say self-doubt. I do doubt with the running, because I mean, like, you know, it's a long way, and you know, it's kind of hard, but I've had this strong belief of, oh, that's always what's pushed me through. I've got a very firm reason for being out there. And I think that is what motivates me. I think that's the one most special thing about my running. When I actually look back, I didn't realise it. I've had nobody else to motivate me. So I could have easily missed sessions. I could have easily not hit the marks, but I never have done. I've always pushed myself. I'm able to push myself extremely hard, because of the reason that I'm pushing. And into trophy, and in winning a Garmin or a time or a medal, it's something much more special than that, and that does enable me to kind of lift myself to the next level. I've got a very firm reason of why I'm actually out there. And you know, I think that sometimes in we use words very cavalier, you know. I am suffering in a marathon, but at the end point I can just stop and the suffering ends. For many, that doesn't happen. And one thing I will say very quickly is we take things for granted, and I never take anything for granted. That might come from being told, Fiona, you're never going to walk properly, you're not going to be able to run. That was a big devastating thing in the teenage years. But you know, we turn the tap on, and this blessed substance that is water comes out. I mean, I ain't looking for Perrier or sparkling or fruit flavoured. That's water, and I can drink it. That's massive. You know, so many people on this planet have not got that luxury at their fingertips, and a lot of those people have not got that luxury at their fingertips because the resources in their country are channeled towards growing crops, which actually we export, then they're exported to feed animals in this country, in the Western world. So they've got nothing, and we're actually feeding what they should have in their country to animals in this country to actually give us bad health. I mean, the products that actually we take, and you know, from animal agriculture are probably not healthy for us anyway. So it's all kind of this jumbled up kind of world that we live in, and I just want to address that. And so I hope people do messages. I hope that they take from it is that anything is possible, and for anyone, you just have to believe and have faith in your own abilities. And a lot of what does discourage me a little bit is the vegan message, if you like, has been geared a lot around body beautiful. You know, this is what I look like. Oh, look at me, I've got all these muscles, I'm all brown and lovely. Well, I'm not. I'm not. Look at me, I'm a right mess all the time. But what is strength? And for me, the most important thing, it doesn't. I'm coming at it from the mental strength point of view. Mentally very strong, and that manifests probably. I am physically quite, you know, built up, you know, purely because of the work I do. I mean, sometimes like you have to combat the old social media things by saying, look at my muscles. And it's not something I feel comfortable doing at all. I don't think it matters what you look like, to be honest with you. But other people do, you know. Oh, look, Fiona, we want a picture for the Guardian. Oh, you're rubbish at taking pictures, they're all wonky. Yeah, well, I'm not a professional photographer. I haven't got even half decent camera, you know. I've got my money and my time is for other things. But it's, for me, it's very much overlooked. It gets very much overlooked. The reason, the mental side of strength is much more important, because actually anybody can be mentally strong, and not everybody can look like, you know, Nimai Delgado. Not everybody wants to. You know, people come in all different shapes, sizes and colours, but we can all be strong in here, and that's something that's, you know, available to all of us, and I think it's something that gets very much overlooked. And if you use that, you know, the sky's the limit for you. That's probably my message.
I think that's a really good point to end on, Fiona, because it is, we can talk all day about the strategies of running and is this better than that, should we do speed training, should we do distance, but at the end of the day, that mental side and that motivation and what it means to us and why we run is, to me, is so much more powerful than any kind of program that anybody can write for anybody.
Yeah, and always remembering that you're blessed to be able to put one foot in front of the other, whether it's for 500 metres or at some stunning pace or a marathon or an ultra. We're very lucky to be able to even think about tackling it when so many people can't. So, yeah.
It's having that gratitude.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, thank you so much, because I know how precious your time is. I know you don't have much time at all, so to give us an hour and a half of your time is we're really, really grateful for that, so thank you so much.
You're very, very welcome.
Yeah,
of course, you know
and Percy. So thank you so much, and thank you everybody for listening. Check out, obviously I think most of you have seen it, but check out Running for Good. Have a look at Fiona's animal sanctuary. It's called Tower Hill Stables. For those of you that don't know, you can have a look. They're always posting all of the animals at the sanctuary. And just thanks everybody, and especially thank you, Fiona.
Yeah, you take care everybody and enjoy your running, and I'll see you all soon, and you know, just stay well and happy and healthy, and enjoy being out there.
Thank you. Thanks everyone. Thanks,
Take
Fiona.
care.
Bye.